Welcome to Cake Bites, where we go rapid fire with this week's rule breaker. Fast questions, real answers, zero corporate polish. I'm your host, Elizabeth Bieniek. Let's dig in. All right, we've got Dan Baird for Cake Bites. Dan, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, let's do it. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I'm a dumb person and I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. So anesthetic, the doctor who applies anesthetic. And it was so dumb because I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know how to spell it. Someone told me at some point that they made a ton of money. And it was so stupid of me, but I remember saying it, and then I remember people asked me to write it, and I was writing anesthesy, Sleezy, anesthesiologist. Again, a young kid, but still it was one of those where it's just like what I didn't know at the time and what I wish I knew later was like, don't focus on the outcome because you think stuff like, oh, well, if I have money, I'll be happy. That isn't the case. That isn't the case. That isn't the case. You're happy if you're working on the smile wrinkles. You want to die with smile wrinkles? Die with smile wrinkles because you enjoyed the journey. It means you're working on things that give you smiles more often than they give you any other expression. That is how you die with a smile wrinkle. You get smile wrinkles by working on stuff you're automatically passionate about. And I haven't yet seen exactly how to predict that. You go and you ask yourself internally. And I wish, when I wanted to grow up, I asked my own brain sooner, hey, what do you really care about regardless of money? Because the money will follow. So, yes.
Well, we're all grateful you didn't grow up to be a sleazy anesthesiologist.
Exactly.
So, right? I can't even say it.
Exactly,
So,
right?
Good choice on careers then.
Yep.
What's a common myth you would like to debunk about the line of work you're in?
So we've been working in AI for 8 years. And like the joke here that we come on all the time is like doing it before it was cool. And people think that we like sit with LLMs and that LLMs are the answer. And that is absolutely not the case. We are digging deep. Like if you go into data science, behavioral sciences, if you hire the right team, number one, they should tell you not to use AI at least once because AI is super energy intensive, time intensive. And there are way too many people that will either overly rely on an LLM, like a GPT, when they could just bust out a calculator. And simultaneously, the reasoning behind them is questionable. So oftentimes you actually want to do the calculations yourself and then have the LLM just explain how they work. That is way better. So people think like, oh yeah, he's Dan. He must just be using LLMs all day. I use them regularly. I have 4 like agents that are regularly helping me rewrite content and stuff like that. But we rely heavily on data preparation. And most people really don't know this. If you're getting into a serious AI project, somewhere between 65 and 85% of your budget goes into data prep. Most people don't know that, think about that, or ever come to that, and they're surprised on their budgets. And it's one of those that makes or breaks your success and ROI. So 65 to 85% is this thankless bean counting type of effort. And I've been on projects where like you work 3 weeks to get the data ready, and then the data scientist walks in and in 3 hours busts out an answer and gets all the credit for it. People think that the data scientist is working the whole time. Actually, it's much more about how clean is the underlying data and how much time did you put into that. You need to. It's with good reason, because if you find out after the fact that your underlying data was flawed, which with LLMs is very common, they'll question the entire product top to bottom. They don't have any appetite. They'll go, oh yeah, if that's wrong, what else could have been wrong? And they assume everything.
Right.
So yeah. That's a big one.
Pay attention to the details.
Yep,
all right. What's the best career advice you've ever received?
My mom sat me down in school. If you're going to college, don't go just to go. You don't have to go just to go. We hire people, and I could care less if they have a degree at this point. There's a handful of like regulated medical doctor types of things where you actually need a certification. Go sit down, go write down kind of 3 things. Go look at what you spend your money on, what you want to learn and what you're really interested in, and what you spend your time doing. Basically, go look at the 3 different dimensions of passion and how you actually operate with them. And you see like the Malcolm Gladwell thing, they talk about 10,000 hours to become an expert. It's really easy to become an expert if you're going to be working on and spending your time with a concept anyways. So my mom sat me down and made me go through the entire book of classes offered at the University of Utah and said, circle all the ones that are genuinely interesting. And then we reverse engineered my degree based on that. Was the single best career move I ever made. And it took an hour. Do that.
There you
Absolutely
go.
Do that.
Take Dan's mom's career advice, please, everyone.
There you go.
What's the one daily habit you think has contributed to your success?
So habits are a really big deal. Daily habits are a really big deal. I had a friend that temporarily died a few years ago. He was kiteboarding in Belize. Storm comes in, pulls his parasail under the water, drags him up the beach. Someone finds him after like 18 minutes of him being drowned and having a mouthful of sand,
Wow.
totally unconscious. Guy had a like near-death experience, woke up with like kind of a new mindset and became absolutely critically focused on how did he, one, do the best with his mind for the rest of the time he had on this planet. And so he said, Dan, help me build kind of a momentum mapper where we basically said, okay, so there's like physical satisfaction, mental satisfaction, metaphysical, like spiritual, financial satisfaction. And we built a little survey that we would fill out 4 times a day that would ask us like, how do you feel right now? What and why? And we filled it out for a few weeks. And what we saw was crazy. You wake up in the morning and your utility and your happiness level would go through fits and starts. You'd wake up at like 6 a.m. or whatever, and it would start to go like this, and it would get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and crescendo. And then you'd go to sleep and it would start over again. When we wrote down and we started finding when we were in bad moods, good moods, and in fights and stuff like that, it was almost tied to too little sleep. Me and my wife only fight when one of us hasn't had enough sleep the night before. Sleep was the ultimate compound interest and force multiplier for everything else you did throughout the day. So the best thing I can tell you is the night before you wake up, set the stage so that you can wake up as late and as quickly and with as little friction as possible. So if you need to go to the gym, put out your stuff to go to the gym, put a big cup of water next to it so you can drink that and wake up quicker. It starts your metabolism going. But the biggest single thing you can do is actually make sure you get enough of a night's sleep because it impacts literally everything else you do throughout the entire day. If it's off, those crescendos, fits and starts get bigger. Sooner, you make more emotional decisions that turn into a repetitive pattern of, oh, well, now I'm going to go eat some junk food, which makes it spike even more. But it cannot be understated enough. Get enough sleep and make sure the rest of your day starts with you getting enough sleep. That one.
I love that. That was a good one.
Yeah.
What is your favorite quote, saying, or mantra?
So it's Ralph Waldo Emerson. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, and to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to have succeeded. That
right there.
Living is not the avoidance of pain, challenge, and difficulty. Your posopsychology and the chemicals that let your brain work are a teeter-totter. They're a finite resource like a seesaw. And finding out that like going through a difficult hike is what makes getting to the end of that hike and that scenic overlook that much more satisfactory. The more difficulty there is and comes with, like, again, I like to do outdoor stuff and things like that. And the being able to put up with hiking in the cold depletes the negative side of the seesaw so that the rest of your day is that much easier. That Ralph Waldo Emerson was going through a really tough time going and dealing with kids in the hospital and stuff like that. And realizing that, like, look, you're avoiding pain is not your happiness. Succeeding and doing something difficult is your happiness. And oftentimes they're directly correlated. So the harder something is to do, the bigger the payoff that comes with it. So go do big things. When you do come across those difficulties, embrace them because they're seesaw. They make one other thing that much easier. And to really be satisfied, you want to have and check off a big portion of your bucket list because the whole point of those is that they're not easy to do, but they're worth doing. I like that Ralph Waldo Emerson one.
Dan, you don't know this, but I'm a former English and literature major. Brownie points for quoting Emerson. Love it. What's your favorite book and why?
Meditations and Marcus Aurelius. I love this stuff. Daily Stoic, if you guys haven't read it, is a really, really good podcast that's around this. And if you don't know the story, it's super cool. 2,000 years ago, this is like one of the emperors in Rome. And he wrote himself a journal that he didn't expect anyone else to ever read. And somehow 2,000 years later, we have it. And it is packed with the most potent, profound wisdom of any book I've ever read. The Daily Stoic is a book where they actually break it into tiny little snippets, like just a paragraph that has and looks into the mind of someone that was in a private situation. They didn't expect to publish this thing. And it is just absolutely loaded with humility and gratitude and critical thinking And it is one of those where I go, you don't have to read a ton. You can read a page or two a day, and it's a short book. You can read it in like 2 sittings, 170 something pages, something like that. And it is a big part of kind of that Ralph Waldo Emerson type of like, hey, look, like this is how you enjoy the present, even if it's difficult. He starts his book. Can you imagine being an emperor? He starts his book with what he calls his debts, where he lists all of the people in his life, and he takes gratitude in describing the traits of their personalities that he appreciates and respects the most. Basically going and finding the best in the people that he is surrounded with, basically trying to emulate those as traits that he can do himself. And it's like the one time that you get an emperor in history where you're like, I wish they could all, if they would all be like that, we'd all be in a very, very, very good spot. But he was humble. He was smart. He didn't make emotional decisions. He made mistakes, but he was aware of his mistakes. He was aware and capable of hearing his mistakes from others. And I go, if there is one thing that I hopefully teach my kids and stuff like that, it's like, hey, I want you to aim for this. It's going to be hard. No, you're not going to be perfect. But man, if there is some it doesn't necessarily, I haven't met anybody who's ever read that book and had anything but good things to say about it. World leaders will read it multiple times a year. If you have to make hard decisions, I think that's one of the best books you can ever read.
Awesome. What do you personally, Dan, want to be remembered for?
Smile wrinkles. One of the main things that we did do our work for in starting Wrench and asking that question, if we died with smile wrinkles, what would they be? And I went, again, I'm not going to be poor, so I don't need to go work for some enterprise and do something. I don't necessarily have to make a bunch of money. I want to die with smile wrinkles. And one of the big ways that I found that really gives me that feeling is helping other people get ideas off the ground. I love innovation strategy. I love helping people refine a prototype and figuring out where their audience is. That's what we patented effectively was, hey, here's how you can recognize that crowd. And we decided at that time, if we can build a product that basically, if you know Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, the co-founders at Apple, Wozniak was an engineer and a really brilliant one. He could develop the product, but he wasn't good at talking to people. And Steve Jobs was really good at talking to people and finding the value in taking the product. He had an electrical engineering degree, but what he was really brilliant with was his design and communication capability on how do we get this into the right hands and how do we kind of productize it. You have those two elements in most companies. And we went, if we can figure out how to build that robo CMO that would help people build an audience, describe their product, even if they were the Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs didn't happen to live down the street. If we can get 100 companies that can exist because of us, because we help the person that's working in their basement or out of their garage find the right way to talk to their product or the right people to talk to about their product, and they were able to get a mortgage and hire people and create jobs, I would die with smile wrinkles. I would love to be remembered for a guy that created a technology that made a lot of other companies possible, whether or not he owned them or not. That is definitely smile wrinkle stuff for me.
Awesome. Awesome. And our closing question, of course, because this is Cake on Tuesday, Dan, what's your favorite cake?
It is cheesecake. It has to be cheesecake.
The toppings or plain?
It's filling. And when I was a kid, when we would do when we do Thanksgiving, I'd go to my grandma's house and they would put the blueberry topping stuff on top of that no-bake Jell-O cheesecake, and I thought it was the fanciest stuff ever, and it's still, the nostalgia of that is fantastic. So if anyone is ever buying me cheesecake, you go, yeah, you can go to Cheesecake Factory and that white chocolate, raspberry chocolate. Yeah, that won't hurt your chances of anything in Dan's life if you're trying to gain a favor. So definitely cheesecake.
All right, we know the way to your heart now. Thank you so much, Dan, for doing this.
Hey, thank you. I had a great time. I appreciate you.
Thanks for joining another Cake on Tuesday celebration of beautiful disruption. Please share it, review it, and find more innovative stories at podcast.cakeontuesday.com. I'm Elizabeth Bienyik. Be bold, stay curious. Now go have some cake.